The purpose of this show is to guide you to realign with habits that get you to live the life you've always dreamed of. This is the Habit-Based Lifestyle Podcast with Jesse Ewing. This is the Habit-Based Lifestyle, where you can access your full potential right now. Finally break free from destructive habits. That dream life, if you want it, you can have it. This is where you transform your health, mind, business, and relationships. Or do nothing and keep your life the way it is. But if you're ready for change, you're in the right place. This is where you're gonna learn how to live a habit-based lifestyle. You are tuning in to the Habit-Based Lifestyle Podcast with your host, Jesse Ewing. This is the Habit-Based Lifestyle. Let's go.
You guys are just joining us. Today is Lifestyle Podcast, but today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. So if you're tuning in live, just hashtag live. If you are watching the replay, you can always hashtag replay. I want this to be interactive, but if you're listening in on our podcast station, you can also interact any way you can, but this is streaming live right now inside of our Facebook group. And today I want to talk about what gets the majority of my time and my attention, and what spurred this question this morning as I sat there in prayer was yesterday I had an opportunity to just be interviewed on one of my clients' podcasts. His name's Steve Adams, and he has a podcast called the Tiger Flow Method. But as I was getting prepared for the podcast, I was super excited just to be able to get on his show. Wasn't really sure, what he was going to ask me. And really, like, I kind of felt like I was coming on his podcast to bring value, but what I would find out in the first 5 minutes of that episode was that he was actually going to give me exactly what I needed at that time and place. But one of the questions Steve asked me was, he started asking me about my family, started asking me about my kids' ages. But as he did that, and as I was describing them, we got to my daughter, Julia, who's the middle child, and he said something really powerful to me. And he said, one of my best mentors in my life taught me this valuable lesson. He gave me a book. I can't even remember the book. I actually sent him a message, said, "Hey, can you remember the name of that book you were telling me about?" But he said, the most critical age for a father to teach, guide, and love his daughters was 11 years old. Now, my daughter just happens to be 11 years old, and she's kind of in that age where, she wants to, spend time with me still, but she keeps kind of asking me to do things. And so as he told me this, it was like my stomach dropped, and I felt like this pressure in my soul, almost to where like someone had literally like punched me and knocked the wind out of me, except I felt it like on a deeper level. And I realized in that moment that, I haven't been teaching my daughter. I haven't been leading her, and I haven't, been guiding her in the ways that she's, asking me. And so this morning I'm thinking about, man, when is the last time, I took her on a date night? And this was something we did all the time, at least 2 times a month. And I could say that in the last few months, she's been asking me more and more, "Hey, can we go on date night?" And I usually will say, "Oh, I'm busy," or "I don't feel like it," or we have something else going on, and just give her a bunch of excuses. And so as I'm going through this, I'm like, man, she's asking me all the time to do all these things. Like literally when I get home, she'll come up to me a lot of times, give me a hug, kind of put her arms around me. And, although I'll give her a hug back, I could say a lot of times I may not, I'll just kind of do it back and enough to do it, but enough to not really put energy into it also. And so, these are things where, she wants one-on-one time at home, or, might ask me, hey, do you want to go swimming? And, oftentimes I'll say things like, hey, I'm too tired. We just bought a house. We're doing a bunch of work to it. And so it's kind of that busy or too tired, excuse we give our kids a lot. And, she'll ask me for the last few months, hey, do you want to go on a bike ride? Do you want to, go hang out? And, I will say this time is the first time in weeks of her asking that I actually did it. And I think we did it twice, but I mean, she's been bugging me literally almost every day for a couple weeks just to do that. And so me and my wife went on date night last night. And as I got home, the first thing that Julia came up to me, gave me a hug, and she's like, hey, will you help me untangle my LED lights for my room? And we just got our house, part of our house painted. And I'm like, man, I don't really want to do this. And if you've seen the tangled part of it, you would know exactly why I didn't want to do it. And I was ready to be like, no, I'll just buy you a new pair. But I heard that same voice that I'd heard earlier today. And on that episode of the podcast that I did, my client Steve's telling me, hey, he's going through all this, but I really heard, this voice, the voice of God say like, hey, this is a critical moment for you in your daughter's life. You need to slow down, and you need to invest some time into your daughter. And so I checked in with myself and was like, okay, let's do this. And this was my opportunity to connect with her. And, it was for the next 60 minutes to 90 minutes. It took us to untangle all of her LED lights. I got to connect with her. Now, I was getting frustrated at the same time, undoing lights and things like that. But at the same time, I was able to connect with her in that moment. And in that moment, I realized, hey, I need to change up some things that I'm doing and how I'm showing up as a father so that I can lead my daughter, I can guide her, and I can give her the attention and love she needs. Because if she doesn't get it from me, she's going to get it from someone else. And chances are it's going to be some other male, whether it be a boy her age or, someone else. And that's not what I want. And that's not, what my job is as a father. And so as I sat there and connected, I thought to myself, man, as I woke up this morning, it's like, man, what gets the majority of my time and attention? Does my daughter, or when it comes to my daughter, what gets the majority of attention? And, generally it's excuses or reasons why I can't do something versus why I can. And so I thought, there's some valuable lessons that I learned in this. One is, to talk about it is a reminder to myself to take the time to connect to not only my daughter, Julia, but to all of my kids, and, to not give them reasons or excuses why I can't, and really learn as a father to be able to step into that. Of course, we could make up the reasons and excuses. We're all busy. But I think this is a really important lesson. And then also, I think it's important to have people in your life who, whether it be a client or whether it be, friends, family, or just being surrounded by people that you're able to learn from, or like this wasn't even a message that I don't think Steve was set up to say. But I think it was at a critical time for me and a critical point for me. But I think it was an appointment for me to listen to this message and just check in with myself and say, hey, how am I showing up? And so having, clients and people in your life, sometimes we're there, to feel like we're the ones giving value, or we're the ones, that are getting interviewed, when at the same time, this message hit me. I'm like, oh my gosh, I was about to be done with the podcast right there and be like, I got what I needed. And yet it wasn't even really for me, and I don't even know if, maybe what Steve said wasn't even that. I'd like to go back and listen to it, but that was what I heard. And that was a critical moment and a critical point. And so, I felt that gratitude this morning for that. And I think it's important that we, are surrounding ourselves with people in our life who, share messages, and he didn't have to share that, but he did. And it was a really important lesson for me to learn. It also got me to think about, ways that I can be showing up better. But I think even doing this podcast, it's a reminder, writing about it is a reminder that I can come back to this. And I think sometimes we can bypass, simple things like this, but I think when we talk about them, they can have such a major impact on us. And hopefully somebody might be listening to this saying, man, I've been doing the same thing. And I'm so glad you spoke about this, because this really hit me the same way it hit you. And that's really what I want to be able to do on the show. And that's why I wanted to change it up today, because I feel like a lot of times, it's like, hey, how do you live a habit-based lifestyle, which is great, right? But if the habit of me not investing time into my daughter, if that habit is not something I'm doing, then a lot of the other habits don't matter. And so if the habits that you have as a father are not investing into your kids, not investing into your daughters, then a lot of the other habits, it doesn't matter how much money you're making in your business, if you're not investing into your wife, your kids, the people who matter the most. And so as much as we talk about lifestyle habits, business habits, I think some of the most important habits that we can have are not only spending time in prayer, but also being able to, invest in our kids and invest time, energy, and everything into our kids so that they can have the best possible experience, not only as a kid, but also as they grow up into being an adult. So I wanted to share that message with you guys today. If you're watching this on the replay, what are you learning from this? If you're listening to this, maybe there's some time that you need to invest in your own kids, and hearing this message is at a critical time in your life. Or maybe, you are investing in your kids and you feel a sense of gratitude that you're actually doing this and showing up in this way. But either way, would love to hear your feedback. Also, I love our intro, outro music, so I'm going to be cranking on that. So you guys have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you next week.
The purpose of this show is to guide you to realign with habits that get you to live the life you've always dreamed of. This is the Habit-Based Lifestyle Podcast with Jesse Ewing.